Good evening, President O'Brien, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Finch, and special guests. Tonight's award presentation continues to look a little different. Social distancing is still being practiced, so we will continue to refrain from handshaking. Honorees, after we read about your award, please come forward, pick up your trophy, check an extraordinary logo pinned to the table to my right. You will then proceed to the stairs for a photo with the Governing Board, Superintendent Finch, and DVEF representatives. Each year, the Deer Valley Education Foundation holds an extensive nomination, application, and interview process to identify the DVUSD Teachers and Rookies of the Year. For this past school year, the number of extraordinary rookies of the year was, well, extraordinary. Never before has the foundation selected more than 2 rookies of the year, but tonight we will honor 6 extraordinary teachers who completed their first year of teaching in 2021. Help me thank the Deer Valley Education Foundation and their Executive Director, Marie Brennan. Here to introduce tonight's honorees is Deer Valley Education Foundation Board Member, Karen Meyer.
Yeah, do you want to? Okay, very good. It is my pleasure to be here this evening to honor all of these rookies. We were so happy to be here 2 weeks ago to honor our veteran teachers of the year, but it's just overwhelming to have all these rookies. It's just fabulous. So I'm going to start with our first rookie of the year, Lauren Foltz. She teaches kindergarten at Desert Sage. Oh, you know what I did? Lauren, you can just stay right there for a minute. I'm going to go back because I want to thank our sponsors first. All of these wonderful companies sponsor us and give you the wonderful check for $500 that you're going to get tonight. Chase and McCarthy, Grad's Photography, DKG, Valley Schools, and CORE. Let's thank them with a round of applause. Now I'm ready to start honoring our rookies of the year, and we will turn the slide and start with Lauren Foltz. As I said, Lauren teaches kindergarten at Desert Sage. She stated, to positively impact students' lives, I feel that teachers must find the perfect balance between being a strong adult mentor and a reliable friend, especially in the primary grades. I feel both those roles this past year. Congratulations, Lauren. Come on up and take us. Stand in the middle. Okay. Whoops. Oh, get your rose. Okay. Lots of pictures. Congratulations, Lauren. And first-year teacher Christine Hallman is now at Sunrise Elementary teaching 6th grade English language arts. She stated, I've made a positive impact in my students' lives simply by being willing to listen and to take supportive action to let them know they are safe and valued. Congratulations, Christine. Thank you. And next is rookie Courtney Lehman is teaching 2nd grade at Park Meadows. She stated, positive planning, data-driven interventions, and a contagious energy paired with genuine care for students is what has allowed me to be an outstanding teacher and personally and positively impact them. Congratulations, Courtney. Perfect. Congratulations. Next, we honor Tate Moline, who is in his first year teaching at Barry Goldwater High School, teaching English language arts to sophomores and seniors. He stated, "I don't view myself as a teacher. Instead, I view myself as a facilitator, one who assists in progress, the forward movement of a young person by making the unknown less difficult." Congratulations. Oh, we lost a balloon. Oh, one more. Okay, thank you. Oh, wait. And I'm looking for a slide for April. Oh, she comes after. Okay, Olivia Wills is not here this evening, but I do just want to honor her. She is in her first year of teaching at Las Brisas, teaching second grade. And she stated, "I positively impact students' lives by developing true relationships, giving personal feedback to students, and focusing on differentiating lessons." And we do want to congratulate with a round of applause, Olivia. And then our last rookie that we honor this evening, April Woodward, is another rookie teaching third grade at Greenbrier. She stated, "Teachers can have such a strong and lasting impact. The interest one teacher shows a young person can change their life forever, helping them to see their potential and worth." Congratulations, April. And I think we would like all of the rookies to come up, please, and stand on the second step so that we can all of you with the board. Don't be bashful. All that enthusiasm. Or- Yeah, let's put Tate in the middle. Perfect. Okay, here we go. One more. Okay, we good? Very good. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, board. We thank the district and we thank the foundation. Congratulations.
Governing board members, tonight we are pleased to have DVUSD's Career and Technical Education Manager, Jamie Fitzpatrick, lead a presentation about the extraordinary CTE Ambassador Program.
Good evening, President O'Brien, Dr. Finch, members of the Governing Board. Happy CTE Month. First, I would like to introduce you to our presenters tonight. So we have Mrs. Debbie Kidwell, our CTE Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Specialist, and Mrs. Lori Beth Horton, our coordinator of the newly formed CTE Ambassadors Program. And we have 5 of our 8 ambassadors joining us tonight. So we're going to do a little bit of reshuffling, but I will quickly introduce you to them. And I think I've memorized all their names, schools, and programs. So we have Dean from Mountain Ridge High School, Film and TV. We've got Hayden from Mountain Ridge High School Marketing with us tonight. We've got Jack from Sandra Day O'Connor, Software and App Design, Graphic Design, and Accounting. And we've got Gabriel from Sandra Day O'Connor, Digital Communications, and Trent from Sandra Day O'Connor, Software and App Design. And they will be coming up to speak to you at the podium individually later this evening. So happy CTE month. We've been excited to be celebrating all month long all of our different programs and our students. So CTE is, as you know, preparing students for high skill, high wage, high demand careers. Right now, our current landscape is there's about 10.9 million open jobs in the United States with a projected labor shortage of 85 million workers by the year 2030, resulting in 8.5 trillion lost in annual revenue. So, with that statistics, we've got different work before us than ever before to work to fill both the labor market shortage, the skills gap, and working with our students, striving to build their technical and professional skills, understand the requirements of the new talent pools from our current generation, and learn different ways to connect with rising generations, making that human connection with our students to help them see their full potential and connect with the careers they love. And these students will share with you tonight how they've begun to do that at our schools. So just some fast facts about what's happening in Deer Valley CTE. Our enrollment numbers are up in from 2021. So right now we've got approximately 5,600 students enrolled in our satellite and central programs. Most of those here at Deer Valley and about 200 students over at West Met campuses. So we've increased our enrollment in programs about 10% over the past year. We've got 21 unique satellite programs across 5 high school campuses with anywhere from 7 to 11 programs on each campus. And some of our achievements over the last year, we had a 2021 CTE U.S. Presidential Scholar, so one of the 20 finalists in the nation. And we have just found out we have a semifinalist this year as well. We had the ACTE AZ New Teacher of the Year and Administrator of the Year. We had a Deer Valley Education Foundation Teacher of the Year who was honored at our last board meeting. The ACTE New and Related Services Business Partner of the Year. That was Treasures Jewelers over on 67th Avenue in Glendale. We had a NAF Distinguished Academy over at Mountain Ridge High School and our current Presidential Scholar semifinalists. So those are just some of the achievements from around our district and our school in CTE.
So thank you for having us here tonight. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to tell you about our ambassador program. So you might be saying to yourself, well, why do they have an ambassador program? What does that have to do with Deer Valley Unified School District? Well, the beauty of this program is it was developed in collaboration with counselors, teachers, stakeholders, student input, and the expertise of a group that's been driving recruitment and retention in CTE for now the 3rd year. We are pleased to tell you that these students represent the passion that is behind CTE. They're here to communicate what they do, how they do it, and why it's going to make a difference in their life. They desire fellowship and recognition and endorsements, and also just the ability to work and collaborate with others to promote what will be the future. We're very honored to have Lori Beth Horton as our leader of this program. She has led the Alpha team from the beginning, and we're going to allow her to tell you a little bit more about the program in the next slide.
We are so excited. We are so excited to be here. We want people to know who we are. You can notice better when the kids stand up our snappy t-shirts that we have that have Alpha Team on the back. We're really excited about those. I have a passion for CTE. I have 2 of my children came through CTE. One of my daughters was the international president of DECA in 2020. So she was a virtual president, but a president nonetheless. We we love it. I know firsthand the wonders that happen in these CTE classes, and these ambassadors are truly next level students that are developing skills that are going to give them a competitive advantage for the future. And you're going to hear that more when they get to talk to you. We've done some cool things in September. We went through an application process. Our kids interviewed with us. We chose them very, very carefully. That picture is from our first kickoff meeting, and you can see the excitement in some of their faces. We've had really good turnouts for everything we've done. The counselor tours were amazing. We had the expo in this very room. You're going to hear more about that a little bit from our kids. We've been to Gavilan Peak, and we had a fabulous winter celebration. We're looking forward to this month's first ever CTE coffee house, where we're going to talk about business etiquette and some of the skills that come with that. So we're happy to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you for supporting CTE. I say that as a parent, a community member, a substitute teacher, and the coach of these kids. We love it. Thank you.
Alrighty, so when we started this program, of course, it required some resources to put this all together. So we obtained a new program grant from Westmec. So they supported the program with approximately $12,000. And with this, it helped us establish a sustainable model for the CTE Ambassador program. Students are represented from all schools. They participate at district community events. They presented to the Westmec board in January, and some of them got to participate in a meet and greet with Mark Perna earlier this morning. So through this program, as Ms. Horton and Ms. Kidwell stated, the students will develop skills in leadership, networking, communication, and most importantly, fellowship. Their work increases the awareness of CTE in the district, in the community, and it supports the recruitment and retention of students into the right programs for the right reasons. So they've served at many events. Hopefully you will get to see them around the district at the different high school campus events, middle school events, and working with advisory councils, business partners, superintendents events, feeder school activities, and so forth. So they are the student face of CTE, and I can tell you our students in the younger grades love hearing from other students. It's one thing to hear it, from us or from the teachers, but when they hear it from a student that's close to their age and is experiencing something that they would like to share with them, it really helps to grab the attention of our younger students and let them see the extraordinary things in Deer Valley. So with that, I would like to introduce you to our first ambassador, Gabriel Sousa, and he's going to talk to you about his experience.
Hi, I'm Gabriel Souza, and I'm a junior at Sandra Day O'Connor High School. Unfortunately, Molly Bomar, who's also in the digital communications program at Mountain Ridge High School, was unable to be here, but they also have a great program. So English is my second language, and although I started learning it at a very young age, I always struggled in it. The journalism and digital communications CT course at my school really helped me achieve my goals and focus on what I needed to do. And CT programs across the district are also helping other students. It's not just about improving and building upon skills that students already have. Many CT programs allow students to learn new skills entirely. At my school, there's 8 different CT programs. From learning the fundamentals of childhood education to having a sports medicine internship. The opportunities are very plentiful and they meet the needs of the varied and diverse student body. CTE programs are also creating well-rounded students with leadership skills, which is very beneficial in today's job market and in growing yourself as a person. In other programs, for me, I am the editor-in-chief of my school's newspaper, which is great for me. But in our newspaper, we also have other positions, so many people are benefiting. In other programs, students can lead school clubs that are related to their CT classes. For example, there's HOSA for students interested in sports medicine in the healthcare industry, but there's also FCCLA for students interested in interior design and architecture. Another example is that there's the junior ROTC at my school. Students are learning how to be good leaders and how to be good citizens, which is very important skills. Not only do these skills make for better students and keep kids interested in their studies, but it also gives them a great thing to put on their college applications. CTE students are earning large scholarships due to their skills, knowledge, and experiences that they receive in their programs. I'm extremely grateful for my experiences and everything that I've gotten from my CTE program, and I believe that every CTE student in the district feels similarly. Thank you. So in the fall of last year, we did the counselor tours, and they were really good for middle school students because we got to show counselors tours of our schools. Not only did we show them what our schools had to offer, but each and every single unique program, which was great for creating dialogue with the counselors and teachers, so that counselors know what programs and what the programs do, so that they can help students meet and go into the programs that they want to go into the first year, not the second or third, so that they can be 4-year CT completers.
Thank you, Gabriel. Serena Geyser from Deer Valley High Nursing could not be with us tonight, but Hayden is going to talk about our High School to Career Expo.
So Serena Geyser, she represents the nursing program at Barry Goldwater, I think. Sorry she couldn't be here, but the High School Career Expo was held in this room, and it was for junior high through high school students. And we had just a bunch of CTE programs here, and we just got to talk to them about what the different types of CTE programs were, and they got to ask questions to us about what it was. And this is Dean.
Hey, I'm Dean. I was also at this event, and I thought it was great to see how many students and parents were here. Like, there was a line all the way out the door around the building for people trying to get in here. And we had every single CTE program, along with the satellite programs like WestMac. And we had a counselor advisory table that was here to answer any questions about what was available to these students at their specific high school, or any questions about the courses in general. And this was all sponsored by Copper State Credit Union, so thank you to them.
Thank you. And then next up we have Trent and Matt from Sandra Day O'Connor.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me tonight. My name's Jack. I'm a CTE ambassador for graphic design at Sandra Day O'Connor High School. My CTE story started off with me hearing some of my teachers talking about the CTE ambassador program back in September last year. And I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to not only make more friends, but to also gain more experience in the graphic design industry. So I decided to join in to see what we do in this program, and to be honest, I'm really impressed. The thing that I enjoy most about this is that it allows me to improve my confidence, social skills, and communication skills, since I had to work and collaborate with a lot of other members in my team. Um, I'm also from a foreign country, similar to Gabriel. English is my second language, so I struggle a lot. I didn't know what everyone was saying to me. I was just this shy and confused kid in the corner of class. But thanks to CT program, my English improved a lot, and hopefully everyone can understand what I'm saying now. So with that being said, in my opinion, there are tons of reasons that every student should join this program. It's not only good for them in high school, but also good for their futures. One of the activities that I got to do in this program is to help out the CT teachers to explain to the future freshman students about what our program offers, and therefore they can decide what CT programs are the best for their future. The experience that day was phenomenal. I had a chance to talk to a lot of parents from many different schools. This helped me a lot in explaining what CT program is to my own parents. And I also learned a lot of things about CT that I didn't know before, which I think would be very beneficial for myself in choosing the right career path in the future. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Trent Block. I'm a sophomore at Sandra Day O'Connor in the Software and App Design program. Ever since I was like 10 years old, I got really interested in software and app design and coding. And when I realized Sandra Day O'Connor had a great program for this, I was super enthusiastic to join, and I'm super excited that I did. I've learned a lot of new coding languages, but more than that, I've gotten to interact with a bunch of different people and get hands-on experience in a bunch of different fields. I've gotten to build various robots and engineer various projects, get hands-on work with 3D printers, which has been a lot of fun and helps prepare me for my future to get actual experiences that could happen in real life and real careers. I've learned so much throughout the 2 years I've been in the program so far, and I'm glad that I'm able to continue my learning at Westmec as well.
Hello, I'm going to speak on behalf of Roman. No, I'm not Roman, but I am an alma mater from Barry Goldwater. I was a teacher in the classroom at Barry Goldwater for 11 years. And so I can speak about the beauty of how CTE blends with not only AP and dual enrollment, but also with the respected IB program at Barry Goldwater. Roman, who's unable to be with us tonight, is a great example of a student who, since his freshman year, has been on a track. And his track has included first software and app design, then marketing, and now as a junior, he's in the IB business management program. When he finishes and graduates, he'll be a completer in CTE as well as able to sit for one of the IB tests. So it's a great example of how we work collaboratively with different programs in different places to satisfy the needs of the students for their growth. I also, Jamie and Lori Beth will tell you, I like numbers, so I'm going to share a few numbers with you. And for example, they talked about counselor tours. We actually had 221 unique counselor tours as a result of the work that we did with the CT ambassador. The CTE Expo entertained almost 700 families. I shouldn't say families, but students and their families. And if you're wondering, now how did they really track that? Well, this is the really amazing thing. We had our law enforcement students at the front of the line. There were two of them. They were double checking each other. And so we know the numbers were pretty accurate and valid. And it was pretty astounding to be at the front of that line and meet those parents and students. Many of them had a direct mail piece in their hand that had come to their home that had their individual name on it. And I sensed that they felt kind of proud that they were getting some mail about something that involved their future. To tell you a little bit more about some of the things that we did, we also were able to do a special event that was put together by Lori Beth, our ambassadors from Boulder Creek, and they actually went and spoke to eighth graders at Gavilan Peak. Now, I got to give a hand to the counselor who put that together because he had a lot of work on his side. But it was a really exciting opportunity for the eighth grade students to get some hands-on knowledge about the programs at Boulder Creek and learn more about career and technical education. Our future holds more of these type of events. We learned that there's some behind the scenes paperwork and other intricacies that have to go into that, but it was a successful event, and we thank those Boulder Creek ambassadors as well as Lori Beth for their hard work.
Thank you. And we're going to bring back Dean and Hayden to talk about their own programs and share some of the things happening at Ridge.
Hey guys, my name is Dean Kessler. I'm from Mountain Ridge. I'm in my third year of media productions and also part of the CTE Ambassadors program. I was first introduced into CTE by my older sister who brought me into DECA and marketing, and I had great fun. I learned a lot. It was amazing, but it just wasn't something I wanted to pursue long term. But I also found media productions my freshman year. And I was already at my church doing audiovisual almost every week, so this was something that I wanted to learn more about. I was really passionate about media productions. Once I got into that class, I was immediately welcomed by tons of advisors and upperclassmen, students that were along with me, telling me how great the class was and how much they learned. This built up both my personal and professional skills and helped me to further my career at my church and working there. I was able to learn a lot more, a lot faster by learning in school.
Hi again, I'm Hayden, and I'm a junior over at Mountain Ridge High School. I'm part of the CT Ambassadors program, and I'm in the class marketing. I was first introduced to marketing through his sister as well, in DECA, my freshman year, and I really loved it. We got to travel all over the place. It was just a great time, and we got to compete, and that was just something I really enjoyed. But my sophomore year, I got put in the class marketing, and I was a little scared at first, but the first day I got in that class, I was just welcomed by the amazing advisor, Mrs. Moore. If you know her, she's just an amazing person. She has taught me so many skills, not besides from marketing, just to be professional, how to speak in front of crowds like this. And I actually got to learn how to write my own business plan. I got to learn team working skills and many skills through marketing. And it's an honor to be here speaking to you guys today. And we'll be speaking about the CTE event, the winter gathering, and professional communication training. We were welcomed by Mr. English after we got amazing cheeseburgers from that food truck you see in the picture. This caught me off guard. Mr. English just was so involved with just all the students that were there, and he just taught us just to be professional. Like, he just taught me how to like just speak like in a different way that I never knew before, and just like a amazing professional communication skills. And it really made me think about it, and that's kind of how I learned to talk here today too. And he like just gave me so many small ideas of like different ways to just make a speech or elevator pitch my own, and it was just an amazing night.
In this event, we were obviously the food truck was amazing, first of all, but it was owned by a previous CTE student who took both culinary and marketing, and he came from Barry Goldwater, and CTE, he was telling us how much it brought him into the career that he has now, owning a whole food truck business along with having his own restaurants. And we got to talk to him, and he was telling us a bunch of professional skills and what our next steps were moving towards our career, and how where we're at now in CTE, how we can get the most out of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Victor Velez, who is our culinary alumni, show pictured there. He um, was a part owner in the food truck company, and we found out at our advisory meeting last week he is the sous chef now at the Sanctuary. So if you're looking for a Valentine's place to go, the sous chef is a Deer Valley alumni. And yeah, even since the new year, our kids have been doing amazing things. They spoke to the WestMec board on January 12th. We had our engineering and software ambassadors, and talked to some of the folks from TSMC when they toured our schools 2 weeks ago. So they are out there networking all the time with the community, with business and industry, and our younger students. So we would like to thank the people that made the ambassador program happen, and we're excited for the future of this program in Deer Valley. Thankful to WestMec for the additional funding to help launch this program, to Ms. Lori Beth Horton for the countless hours and navigating uncharted waters as we kind of build this plane as we fly it. Mrs. Debbie Kidwell for her impeccable organization and communication to make sure that all those DVUSD processes are adhered to with fidelity in the ambassador program. It's not easy to bring together 50, 60 students from 5 high schools. So there's a lot that goes into that. Mr. Mark Perna and TFS Solutions, development of the program and the business model to make this work. And then, of course, to Dr. Galligan, Dr. Finch, and all of you for your support of career technical education. We're happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions, board members? Mrs. Fisher?
Is your sister graduated and available for recruiting? Curious.
All right. Mrs. Ordway, did you have one?
I just had a quick comment. Awesome CTE, and yes, you made me love it even more. See, I didn't think you'd be able to, but you did. And apparently the sister marketed the marketing because you're into marketing, so awesome job.
Mrs. Paperman?
Thank you for all you do for the support for our students. My question is, do all students in the high schools have these opportunities?
The answer to that question is yes. All students have the opportunity, and these are all the events where they have the opportunity to learn about it, as well as through their one-on-one meetings with their counselors.
Okay, and we have the fundings to grow, to get more students involved and uh, more support to get them more in the Korean technical education.
Yeah, so we're funded by several different sources.
Okay.
We are funded by the federal grants through Carl Perkins funding, and also through state CTE grants through the state of Arizona, and then through being a member district with WestMec is where we get the majority of our funding, and then other smaller grants for special programs as they come along as well.
Thank you. This is a great opportunity to give our high school students more options. And for those students that, like I know many high school students that they may not have the support at home. So this is another option for them when they graduate to stand in their own 2 feet. Thank you.
Mrs. Reed?
There we go. I just want to double check. We have additional funding to make sure the ambassador program is able to continue after this year, right, for future years?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then as a parent of a former CTE member, I think the neatest thing was, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I got a phone call, checking up to see what my son was doing now in college and what I thought of CTE and whether or not he was continuing on with his coursework. And he was in the sports medicine program, and while he isn't going into sports medicine, he is going into psychology, and so he's a psychology major. But one of the neatest things is what he learned in sports medicine, he was able to carry out with him on the athletic field. And so in one of his games, there was a player that was injured right in front of him from the other team, and he was the first athletic trainer there and was able to assess and stabilize the player before the trainer was able to get there. And so that was a really neat moment to be able to see firsthand. And then another thing is a group of O'Connor students that were in media productions, the CTE program there, wrote, produced, and directed a movie and had a movie premiere over the summer and filled up an entire theater at Harkins. And so that was really neat to see all the things that they had learned. And it was a great movie. So I know that you know how much I appreciate you, Jamie, and how much I appreciate each of you. Thank you for putting in the extra effort and to grow our CTE programs and to give students a little bit more of hope for their future and to instill that confidence in them as they continue to move forward. And gentlemen, thank you so much for your kind words and sharing your experiences. It was really amazing to hear how much CTE means to you, and I wish you all of the luck in the future as you continue on with your path in DVUSD and with your path, whatever that next step is for you. So thank you.
So I'm going to say, ditto to most of what was said. Thank you all. I think CTE is an amazing program and a great place for our students to start exploring those careers. And as one of you shared, you started in one program and switched programs. And as a parent, our CTE program did that for my son as well. Started in accounting and decided he didn't want to do accounting, and so probably saved us a few extra $1,000 in college. So thank you for that. And I hope what parents will take away is that this is a great opportunity and students for you to explore options that you may stick with, or you may find out that that's not what you want to do, but it is a great place to do it. I don't think our folks in our CTE program could care any more about our children because it's just an incredible program. And thank you, gentlemen, for trying to be involved in a program that is growing CTE. And the other hats I get to wear right now, all I'm hearing about is how we don't have enough workers anywhere for any kind of job. So I think that the foundation we give our kids in the CTA program to move on and become productive members of society is just exciting. And I hope you come back and tell me that next year we're even bigger than the 5,600. I hope we can grow exponentially through this ambassador program. Excited to hear there are funds. Thank you for spending your Tuesday evening with us. I'm sure there was nothing you would have rather done. So, oh, that's not very nice, Mrs. Ordway. So with that, big, huge thank you. And if we could have a round of applause for our guests this evening. And we will have a short break and call the meeting to order at about 7:15. Am I? Okay, we're going to call the regular meeting of the governing board for February 8th, 2022 to order at 7:20 p.m.
So moved.
Please let the roll call show that all members are in attendance. And if you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Do we have a motion for the agenda?
Oh, you want me to read the whole thing or just? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. All right, we will move to our district reports. Our first set of reports is the finance reports. Mrs. Mock?
Good evening. I almost said good afternoon. Good evening, President O'Brien, members of the board, and guests. This evening, the first report we are going to present is the student enrollment report for the month ending January of 2022. We went through our 100th day of school during January and are on the downhill slide of the school year. The report for the last date in January is reported as of the 106th day. And we were seeing a 1.4% increase from this time last year. Still seeing a decrease of 3.6% from the same time in 1819. We currently have an enrollment of 32,662 students. As a reminder, when we mention the 100th day, we're actually funded on the aggregate enrollment from our first through our 100th day. So we expect our increase in ADM from last year to this year to actually be greater than 1.4%. And with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions, board members?
No.
All right, hearing none, please move on to the the other financial report. Mrs. Mock?
President O'Brien, members of the board, our second report this evening is the M&O budget report for the month ending January. We do have some additions to this report compared to what we were reporting last month for the month ending December, and that's because as of last week, ADE published final reports for M&O carry forward from FY21 or last year, and we actually realized about $3.5 million additional dollars in carry forward than what we had budgeted for, and so we are showing that here in the 21-22 budget line on the left, right below the total of the $252 million overall M&O budget. In addition to that $3.5 million is about $1.1 million in additional budget capacity that we had not previously shown, but was part of our September budget revision. If you'll remember, last year, the legislature finished very, very late. And so we did not have the proper budget forms available in July when we adopted the budget. So therefore, we had a rare opportunity for a September budget and did recapture just a little bit extra ADM from some of the increase that we had seen up until that point. So that gives us a projected M&O carry forward of the $6.8 million that we have remaining, mostly due to our unfilled contracts for certified and classified staff, still experiencing many vacancies. And when we add the additional 4.7 that we've recaptured here in this report, it's about 11.6 million in projected carry forward. A rarity as well for Deer Valley is an additional $7.5 million in unbudgeted, unallocated budget capacity from FY21. Typically, when we budget our revenue and our expenses, we ensure that we've got every dollar spread throughout the district to our staff, our salaries, making sure that we use all of it wisely. Last year, in order to use it wisely, we actually held some of it back, not knowing what was going to happen with COVID or any student attendance, if we were going to increase or not. And so we are at a point where we're very comfortable moving that 7.5 million back into the carry forward line. And so at this point, with all of those moving pieces, we are projecting FY22 carry forward of about $19.1 million. And with that, I will take any questions.
Mrs. Ordway?
I don't know if there's some other place in a report you guys are going to talk about the aggregate spending limit, is there?
We can mention that here as well. It is footnoted on the report.
Okay.
There has been no change since last month, unfortunately, due to the $1.2 billion state we'll see if I can say this. It's been a really long day. Due to the state exceeding the aggregate expenditure limit for public education K-12 by $1.2 billion, there is still a likelihood that Deer Valley and every school district in Arizona, through no fault of their own, may have to reduce their expenditure budgets this year.
And our number is?
36.37 million. We hopefully will know by March 1st. The legislature has until March 1st to take action and potentially vote to allow school districts or the state to exceed the aggregate expenditure limit. If not, then our report in March will be much different, and we will talk about what we will be needing to do as a district in order to reduce our budget by that $36+ million in the current school year, 3/4 of the way through the school year.
So the money that you just talked about being quote unquote surplus or carry forward, are those funds that we would be able to, I'm not saying we will, I'm just asking if those are funds that would be available to make a dent in the 36.3 million.
Vice President Ordway, members of the board, yes, that is a pocket of money that we could use to help offset the budget reduction.
And then I'm sure that there's strategies that are being worked on now if this were to come to pass. When would we know if we're looking at services, employees, or what portions or blends of all of the above?
We do not plan on making any cuts to staffing, even if the $36 million budget reduction is imposed. We do, it may result in a spending freeze, things of that nature. This is one case where if the legislature, unfortunately, were not to allow districts to exceed the aggregate expenditure limit, that it probably would be the only benefit from the mass amount of vacancies that we have seen this school year.
I was going to say, so we have the mass amount of vacancies, which is a different thing than we've had in the past when we've had to cut things, because I think we're pretty bare bone right now, right? All right, just wanted to clarify that we wouldn't even be halfway there with the money that you spoke about now. Thank you.
Nope. Vice President Ordway, I appreciate the mention, and hopefully we'll have a happy report on the aggregate expenditure limit come March.
Mrs. Fisher?
Before I step in, are you going to go on to the auxiliary and the student funds? Because my questions are there, so I don't want to cut you off.
Mrs. Fisher,
All right.
unless the board has any other questions about the M&O budget report, I'll be happy to answer any questions about the student activities or auxiliary reports.
Before we go there, my questions are about this report, so can I come back to you? Does anybody else have questions on this report? Mrs. Paperman?
Will you be able to explain to the community what does it mean forward?
Mrs. Paperman, I apologize. You cut out right there at the end. Could you ask your question again?
Yeah, will you be able to explain to the community what does it mean carry forward when we have X amount of dollars, and what does it mean to the
Mrs. Paperman, members of the board, that is actually an excellent question. It is unspent budget capacity from the current year, or basically dollars that we were allowed to budget that we did not spend. It's a benefit to us for sure as we go forward budgeting for FY23. The one thing that we always caution our negotiation solution team and all of our employee group representative work teams is that it is one-time funds. So it is a one-time pot of perhaps $19 million that would be available to spend as we budget for FY23.
Mrs. Reed, did you have anything? Okay. I would request that we have some draft ideas at the February 22nd board meeting that shows where the additional $17.2 million would come from. I think that's important. While I would like to have faith that the legislature and the governor will take care of this prior to March 1st, I do think we should probably start those discussions before March in a draft form. Having said that, would you like to go on to the other two reports?
Yep, I'm ready to move forward. Thank you, President O'Brien.
So I'm assuming we're just doing questions.
Oh,
yes.
sorry. I didn't know if you wanted to present something, but otherwise you can just go to your questions.
I didn't know either. So in looking at this, I was looking a little bit at the high school balances in the Student Activities Fund.
Mhm.
And I know proms are expensive. I know there's a lot of things that are expensive. I know oftentimes our seniors will do some big gesture at their school. However, these balances are very high. And I know that we are required to do our best to make sure that the students who are benefiting from these funds are the students who raise the funds. To some extent, we have our juniors who gift our seniors, things of that nature. But I just want to make sure that we're not in danger of having any student-earned funds swept because we're allowing the balances to get high. I've never really paid attention to how much we spend or our students spend because this is their money. We're just pass-through.
Mrs. Fisher, members of the board, I agree wholeheartedly. We do monitor the student activity funds. We monitor, let's say, the senior class, the outgoing 6th grade class, outgoing 8th grade class. Those are some of the ones we look at most closely and make sure that the schools are getting those student groups together at the end of the year and voting on what to do with any balances that they have left over, whether they gift something to the school. Sometimes, let's say a 6th grade class, some of the recommendations we make, not necessarily a recommendation, but here are some options for you. You could gift it to the kindergarten class so that they have something coming in instead of nothing. You can do something for the school. You can bequeath it to student government so that it's helping the entire student body. So we do watch those very closely. Student governments, I think between student governments and athletics, there just are a lot of different accounts. And so it's going to vary by high school, but we can definitely check and follow up in a board report and just
now, is the annual
as a double
limit-
check as well, just to let you know what it's looking like at the moment.
Is the annual limit still in place? I had tried to push legislation 4 or 5 years ago. There used to be a limit where if it exceeded a certain amount, it had to be moved to something else. And I think it may have been this. It might have been a different account. I'm pretty sure it was this one. Or at least our business manager tried to sweep it, I guess I should say. And it was, I believe, $100,000 total allowed. And so it was one of those, I don't know if it's per grade. I'll find it and I'll email it to you because that's my main concern. I just don't want any money from that our students have raised to be swept away.
So
Then the
for
next,
sorry, Mrs. Fisher, just for clarification, I apologize. You're talking about a policy that was at a different district.
no, I'm talking about statute.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in statute. It was in statute. We were trying to remove it.
Okay.
I don't know if it was ever removed, and that's just my concern.
And
And then
Mrs. Fisher and President O'Brien, I apologize for cutting you off, Mrs. Fisher. We are not familiar with that with student activities funds. We believe, just glancing at Mr. Miglioreno, that there might be something in statute for extracurricular activity tax credit and limiting those accounts.
it could be auxiliary or tax credit. That's why I said I'll double check to clarify, and I'll send it to you. Then you can just tell the board whatever the answer is. The second one, because I know that your 525 and your 526 funds were reversed, but then you guys reported the right way. Is this true auxiliary or is this tax credit?
This is true auxiliary. This is for any other district, it would be 525. For Deer Valley, it's 526 and 527. So it's our auxiliary and our athletic auxiliary.
Okay. And then again, the same concern, especially if it is this fund that we are in excess of $2 million. And I just want to make sure that we don't allow that to go to where it has to be swept to other accounts, because I just believe that it needs to be, we get these funds from student activities, even if it's not student driven, it's our gate receipts, things of that nature. I just want to make sure that they are utilized for students. So same concern. When I find that statute, I'll see if it's still there. Hopefully, Representative Fillmore at one point was going to submit something to help to have that expanded to a higher level, because when you talk about a little small district, it's okay. You get to a large district or a unified district, and $100,000 is it's nothing in what some of these students raise or their athletics raise. So thank you for affording me the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher, for those questions. Thank you, Mrs. Mock. If no one else has any questions, and we will go to the Safe and Healthy School Report. Dr. Zerbach.
Okay, good evening, President O'Brien, members of the board, Dr. Finch, and members of our community. This evening, I will present the Safe and Healthy Schools Report, as I always do, and we will get started with our agenda. There we go. Okay, this agenda is brief. We will review the COVID-19 metrics, our data, and our dashboard, talk very briefly about the impact on our operations, and remind folks about COVID-19 testing opportunities, and then have a time for questions and answers. Okay, so for our community level of transmission metrics, both of the next two slides are showing on a trajectory that we want. This particular slide shows the case count, and although we are in the high transmission still, the decline is quite sharp with the number of cases, and we do predict that this will continue to fall at a sharp rate. For our rate of positivity, this one again has begun to fall, and we would expect this will probably not fall as sharply as the case count, but it will likely continue to drop as well. For our epi curve, again, as I have always said at these particular board reports, our case counts correlate with the overall county epi curve. And so you can see here the decline, and that dotted line is the 7-day average for the county. And so again, it's not surprising to see that when our metrics decline, that you're going to see quite a sharp decline in this particular bar graph. The same is for this particular graph. This shows our school-age children, children ages 6 to 18. And so in this particular graph, you can see again, we are on a sharp decline. This is reflected in our DVUSD dashboard, which again, the friendly URL is there for folks to see. We do update those on Monday afternoons. And our most recent update, which was yesterday, showed our lowest count in quite a while. And so that is a good thing for not only our schools, but the community as a whole. This particular chart here shows that number. So again, as you can see, we were under 100 and we have not for quite some time. And again, I would expect this number to continue to decline. As far as our impact on operations, our classrooms that we've converted to virtual, that is 3. That was in the 2 weeks ago. We have not had to convert any classrooms in last week. You can see that for alternative staffing, that as well is showing better. It doesn't add up to 40 because this is on a weekly basis that this is reported. So during the last 2 weeks, we've had 21 schools that have had 1 week where it was 1 to 5 times that they needed alternate staffing. And then you can see how that distributed out for the schools for 6 to 10 and then more than 10. As far as our absences due to COVID, for our admin, you can see we still did have a number of schools that had that particular absence, but again, that was really 2 weeks ago when that occurred. And so I would expect this number to decline quite sharply the next time that I come in front of you. And then the same for the nurses, that one has declined. For our COVID-19 testing opportunities, this is just a reminder for our community. We do continue throughout the month of February to offer testing to not only our students and staff, but any member of the community. And community members can access that from 11 to 2 on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays right here in the district office. Again, as I commented last time, the lines are not long. So I would encourage anyone who wants to have a test to come out because they will get a test very quickly and the results are coming in quite quickly as well. Home test kits as well, we have allocated additional ones to the schools. We expect to receive more in the month and we will continue to give those to the schools. And then as well, not listed on this particular slide, but just another reminder that Constitution has another vaccination clinic this Friday from 2:30 to 5:30, and that is for any parent who would like their child to be vaccinated, not only for COVID, but any number of illnesses that they can receive a vaccination for, and that is free of charge. So again, this Friday at Constitution Elementary from 2:30 to 5:30. And that, President O'Brien, concludes the Safe and Healthy Schools report, and I can entertain questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zurbach. Questions, board members? Okay. Well, there you go. We will move on to call to the public. I believe we have 7 speakers, so you each receive 3 minutes.
All right, I'm going to say your names if you could speak in that order. Larry McGowan, Dr. McGowan, Emily Binder, Jake Adams, Paul. Yeah, I'll wait for the rest. Okay, so before you speak, I need to read. The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on many agenda items on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic, hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. And since we have 7 speakers, no one's time is shortened. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items that are not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda.
All right, please state your name for the record and then your time will begin.
Yes, my name is Larry McCown. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can. Yes, we can.
Good. Our grandson Neil McCown was injured on Thursday, January 20th at Diamond Canyon Elementary School. As a result, a cast had to be applied to his arm due to a broken and detached growth plate at his left elbow. Let me give you quickly how this occurred. Neil was climbing on the monkey bars, and a girl came up and pushed him off. from behind. He lost his footing and he left hanging there, hung by his arms, and eventually fell to the ground. This was witnessed by several students and reported to his teacher, Ms. Kroger. Niels was sent to the nurse, Lisa Salahar, who gave him an ice pack and sent him back to class. We requested immediately an incident report the next day, but Scott Warner advised the Diamond Canyon staff not to respond to our request. Our question is, why weren't we called after the accident occurred, a report filed, and promptly investigated? Your ARS 15-00041 states if an incident is reported pursuant to this paragraph, a requirement that school officials provide a pupil who is alleged victim of the incident a written copy of his rights, protections, and support services available to that pupil. Procedures designed to protect the health safety of pupils who are physically harmed as a result of incidents of harassment, intimidation, bullying, including, if appropriate, procedures to contact emergency medical services or law enforcement agency of both. We've had no response in 12 days, okay, other than an email today from Scott Warner indicating that he's still investigating, okay? There's no question that the young lady, Harper Meyer, pushed Neil off the monkey bars and that Neil was injured. And we even provided copies of text messages where she admitted doing so. She was sorry about it, but it was an aggressive attack. My question is, why is it taking 12 days to respond to a simple investigation? We need to know, and we need to know right away so we can take the next steps that we need to take. My question was why the student was not suspended. You obviously didn't follow your own procedures and policy. As a result, we'd really like to have Scott Warner. Matter of fact, we demand Scott Warner be removed as because of his the way he's reduced our communications and not allowed us to contact the teachers. As a result, our grandson can't play baseball this spring. He's in a cast for 4 weeks, and then he's 4 weeks of therapy, and by that time, half the
Thank you for your comments, sir. The next speaker.
Can you hear me?
Can we move it a little bit closer to her, please? Is that possible? Or
Can you hear me now?
yes, we can now. Please state your name for the record, and then your time will begin.
I'm Dr. Sandra McCown. As Larry said, we're asking for you to provide an alternative to Scott Warner as the communication liaison with us. We are asking an important question. Why did Scott Warner not give us the information? Why did he tell the school not to contact us? He sent a separate email. Harper Mayer admitted to pushing him. She was sorry she did it. We don't have a report yet. There's a reason we don't have one. There is some negligence involved, and it has happened at Diamond Canyon. Warner didn't report it. So what are his motives? We have a legal right, according to ARS 15102, to receive information and to communicate with the school. However, Scott Warner has taken this right from us. He sent a letter, and all of you have a copy of it that are in front of me at the school board and Curtis Finch, that he says we cannot call the school. And if I can communicate with him once a week on Friday by 11 o'clock. And if he thinks my issue is important, he might respond to me. Nobody in your district has that right to tell me you might answer me. So as a result, I don't send a request because he's not going to answer it. That's not going to happen. We really want Scott Warner replaced as our point of contact. In the letter, he makes all these accusations against us. I ask him, give me examples of why you did that. I have no examples. I sent him 15 questions to answer. My granddaughter Audrey has a 504 plan, and I can contact nobody at the school. I asked him to set up a meeting with Dr. Toback for Audrey's 504 plan. He hasn't done it yet. Why not? He has no right to do that. So I'm asking you, and respectfully, to not communicate with him. Immediately, we request an alternative person. We will not communicate with him because he says he doesn't have to answer us. My grandson is in a cast. He is injured 12 days and he has the information. I really need some resolution to this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Dr. Finch, if you could please follow up in the board update on Friday to let us know where we are with the matter, I would appreciate it.
Emily Binder, and then Jack Adams.
Do you have a request for Dr. Finch? Okay.
Actually, my request is for you, Ms. O'Brien, that we schedule an executive session so the board can discuss district communication with parents. This isn't the first incident where parents have said they have been excluded from conversation, but the board meeting is not a venue that's appropriate to discuss it. So my request is that we have a meeting. I don't find that the Friday updates provide information. And I think as a board, we're responsible, and I think we should talk about it.
And Paul Carter.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. I will discuss it with the district attorney. Sorry, please state your name for the record and then your time will begin.
Hello, I'm Emily Binder, and I'm a freshman at Barry Goldwater High School. I'm here to express how I feel about some of the ways my teachers are teaching me. First of all, they aren't teaching me. They spend most of their time trying to indoctrinate me with their political opinions. And in my allotted time, I will tell you of the many instances that I have experienced. First of all, as a summer assignment, I was forced to read a book called The Color of Water. I'll read some of the book for you. Look at her with those little N-word. I remember when a white man shoved her angrily as she led a group of us onto an escalator, but Mommy simply ignored them. I remember two black women pointing at us saying, "Look at that white bitch," and a white man screaming at Mommy somewhere in Manhattan, calling her an N-word lover. As you can see, this book is very inappropriate for a freshman. It uses racial slurs that I have been taught that are never acceptable to use. Another book that my teacher is having us read now is called The Hate You Give. This book, once again, is about race. Now, you might be thinking that I am only upset because I am white, but that is not true. I have never seen color. I was not raised that way. But reading books like this has made color more obvious to me. So you all preach no discrimination, but all you are doing is encouraging it if you allow teachers to make us read books like these. This is not the only instance of brainwashing, sadly. One time we were talking about the flag, and my teacher said, "I don't understand why we have to pledge allegiance to an inanimate object." This teacher also does not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and when she does not say the pledge respectfully. I find this highly offensive. Men and women have died to protect that flag and make sure that it will still fly. I come from a big military family. My great-grandfathers were in the U.S. Navy and fought for that flag. My great-great-grandfather fought for the flag in the U.S. Army. So to see someone disrespect it like that hurts my soul. I have also had experiences with teachers bringing up masks and vaccines. One teacher told the class that they wear a mask and are vaccinated to protect us. Since when is it okay for teachers and students to discuss personal medical history amongst each other? It never has been in the past. This rule should not change because of COVID-19. I should not have to hear about who got the vaccine or who they believe should get it. They are not medical professionals, nor are they my doctors. I am a minor. My parents make my medical decisions. Teachers have no right to discuss this with students. There's a reason why when I go to the doctor, my parents have to be present, not my teachers. And those who choose not to wear a mask should not be called stupid or be segregated from those who do choose to wear a mask. Teachers have also discussed with students voting laws and compared them to Jim Crow laws. The teacher expressed their discontent with the possible changes of voting laws in our country. They stated that if these changes were to be made, society would be adopting Jim Crow again. Although this may be her personal opinion, these political views do not belong in the classroom. This is where indoctrination is coming into play. My brain is at its most moldable state, and I do not need teachers to try to push their beliefs onto me. This teacher has also disrespected me when I was not able to defend myself. At the beginning of December,
Thank you so much for your comments. And Dr. Zerbuck, if you could please follow up with her, we'd appreciate that. If you please state your name for the record, your time will begin.
Jacob Adams, my daughter's Emily, the one that just spoke. I'm going to read an email that I sent to Anita Stulick because I think you all need to hear it. It's important. My name is Jake Adams. I'm the father of Emily Bender. I'm writing today to express some concerns I have about Rhonda McWhorter and the way she is teaching her class. For reference, I have attached the syllabus to this email. I apologize, I had the wrong syllabus. I have called the BGHS office previously this year to express concerns that I had and was asked by one of your office staff to first try to discuss my issues with the teacher herself and attempt to resolve the issue, which I did. However, we're still dealing with these concerns, which I've outlined below. My concerns start with Rhonda asking her class to read a book called The Color of Water, which goes into vivid detail of a father sexually abusing his daughter and forces the reader, at the time my 14-year-old daughter, to read the N-word repeatedly. As Emily's parents, we would not allow our daughter to read this book as we feel it is completely inappropriate for a child of that age to read, regardless of what life lessons the teacher may think the book teaches. By not following the syllabus, by not notifying us ahead of time what the book contained, Rhonda took that decision away from me and my wife. Another issue includes Rhonda making comments to a student that she doesn't understand why we have to pledge allegiance to an inanimate object, something everybody in this room did before we started. Again, I find her comment completely distasteful and highly inappropriate. My grandfather was a veteran of the U.S. Navy and spent 20 years defending our flag, and I'm a member of an organization and spend my free time donating my time to serve our veterans and first responders. It's not Rhonda's role to teach or to advocate. Her position on patriotism in the classroom, shaping Emily's worldview, is our job as her parents. Rhonda also made several comments regarding her COVID vaccination status and she has made sly remarks that imply she feels kids who wear masks are smarter than those who choose not to. Once again, I find her comments highly distasteful and inappropriate. If she feels safer because of her vaccine status or her mask, that is her personal opinion and should be kept to herself. She is not a health professional, and again, it is not her job to teach, to advocate, or to lecture my child or anyone else in her class on personal medical choices. As Emily's parents, we make health decisions for her based on what we feel is safest situation for our daughter. The last straw is a book that Rhonda is asking her students to read right now called The Hate You Give. Here is a brief summary of the theme of this book from SparkNotes. The Hate You Give examines the way society uses stereotypes of Black people to justify violence against racism against them. These stereotypes protect white communities such as the students at Stars School, Williamson Prep, from reflecting upon systemic racism which perpetuates discrimination. We see this prejudice most clearly in how 115 depicts his murder. I'm not going to continue reading it, but basically it's about systemic racism being pushed in the police departments, causing police brutality on particularly Black victims. I don't have time to read all of it. Once again, I find this to be completely inappropriate. This book perpetuates racist stereotypes and anti-police rhetoric that, again, is inappropriate for the classroom. I will say it again. Rhonda's role as a teacher does not include advocating her personal, political, or social views in the classroom. This is our role as Emily's parents. It is clear that Rhonda McWhorter is pushing her own political ideas within her classroom and is making it.
Thank you so much for your comments, Dr. Zerbuck. We'll talk. Please state your name for the record, and then your time will begin.
My name is Paul Carver. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. I wanted to touch base on one of the action items that we'll be discussing here shortly, the resolution to support reclassification of tax assessment ratio for expansion per foreign trade zone provision. I don't doubt that Sunlit Chemical can qualify for this foreign trade zone tax adjustment. My concern, however, comes from a view of why are we asking for this tax break to be applied? Simply because it can be applied? Was this tax break promised as a carrot for the development of the TSMC project? What beneficial impact does Sunlit Chemical bring to the community and, even more importantly, the district? I understand the jobs, but it's not like we're in a housing glut right now where there's houses sitting empty and taxes aren't being paid on them. The perk of bringing communities and businesses to the area are for the district is normally the increase in the tax base. If this tax break is approved at a discount of 13%, what does Sunlit Chemical offer the community and the district to offset the revenue loss? At a time when districts are screaming for added revenue, you're proposing a 13% tax break. Don't misunderstand me. I'm as for little taxation as possible to get the job done that you've been entrusted. However, we often see requests for bonds and other avenues of increasing the funds available to the district on one hand, and then are expected to give a rubber stamp on requests such as these. At a time when every aspect of the district's dealings are coming under added scrutiny, I think it prudent to explain to the community why the district would walk away from added revenue. What does Sunlit Chemical offer the students and the teachers of this district that is worth a 13% discount? I ask you to ask yourselves these questions and demand detailed answers before simply nodding yes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Laura Bates and Jessica Lewis.
Please state your name for the record, and then your time will begin.
Okay, I'm Laura Bates, and this is a really timely request, and I'm here to promote recording of all classrooms and also of any surrounding the playgrounds, the hallways, and parents that are wondering, why would we want to do that? Well, I'm going to give you some examples, and boy, we heard some examples already. I have a 8th grader that came home and asked me, Grandma, I don't understand that there's only, and I'm going to paraphrase this so it's appropriate, there's only boys and girls, and you can tell the difference. And then he says, and I don't care what you say, boys can't have babies. And I do not think that's appropriate at all. It is not the school's responsibility to be teaching this stuff. The other thing he came home with, and I did a little bit of searching, he calls it social equation, EQ. Well, it's really called social emotional learning. And West Wing parents, listen up. Every morning, these kids get put into a conference call, watch a video, and talk about this. I don't know a lot about it, but my next meeting, I'll be talking more about this and maybe ways of doing it. And we'll have some red herrings. Where would we get this money? And I think COVID has been a good advancement for that. We have the technology. And I'd like to quote Miss Superintendent Finch, sorry if I got the name wrong, at my first meeting here. He says when they were talking about teaching the teachers how to communicate properly with students, he said, don't worry about the finances. That's our job. And I want that same can-do attitude in this. And it has to go through the legislature, but the school board needs to promote it and get it done. The other thing they're going to use as a red herring is, oh my gosh, we have to protect the students' personal and not get predators to them. Well, that's exactly why I think this is important for a parent to be able to, when they come home and have a ridiculous conversation with you on what should not have happened in the school, a parent should be able to go to that school in a secured location and pull up that recording to hear exactly what's being said. So there's no question. So I'd like to thank you for I did have one other thing. Just to add insult to injury, I have the Deer Valley AZ merit test. In 2021, 45% of our students were failing. In math, overall, 51% of our students were failing. And of course, they're going to say, oh, that's because of COVID.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker could step forward and state your name and your time will begin.
My name is Jessica Lewis, and boy, it sounds like we have a problem with curriculum in the schools. I'm here to talk about the math curriculum. In general, I think all of your curriculum that is going to be adopted should have a minimum standard of how many people in the public, parents specifically, not teachers, who are approving your curriculum. There are approximately 31,000 students in the district with 40 schools. There is no way that in, I think it was like 2 months it was released, maybe you gave a month, that you only get 10 parents to review this. There's a problem with the communication. Now, I know you extended it for a whole, 10 days? I'm a working parent. I had friends review it for me. It was quite interesting. It's customizable by the teachers. Clearly, we need some regulations on what the teachers can do. So I'm really concerned about this customization that is able to be done especially after what I've heard tonight. It's very concerning. The emails that they sent out to review the curriculum, there were lots of them sent. There was a lot of action this time. However, it wasn't action that we need reviews. It was emails like, we had people working on this. We're ready to finalize it. They've been working very hard. We'd like you to review it, but on a kind of hoping that you don't. The other one was strictly for the math curriculum. Didn't really say much about it. Just said, here you go, review it, comment if you want. But with I think the email should say we need a certain amount of parents to review this materials. And that's for all curriculum, not just math. You have to set yourself some standards because right now Arizona doesn't look great, nor does Deer Valley alone. With all these the curriculum controversies in the schools these days, allowing teachers to customize homework allows opportunities for hidden agendas. Also, I want to make a note of a text message I received on Monday. Please see the MRHS message regarding vandalism on the campus in your email. Now, this math curriculum was so important that I didn't get the same text message. So you guys have the capability to make these communications to the parents. And you can set the expectations that we need you to do this before we can finalize any curriculum. I don't care what curriculum it is. Parents should be able to review this. These kids are going to be taking care of us when we're old. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. All right, the next item on our agenda is the high school math adoption resources.
All right, I would make a motion that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the high school math adoption resources.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Galligan?
President O'Brien, members of the board, Dr. Finch, as you received yesterday, we had 40 public comments come in for the high school math adoption. In the board update, you also saw the changes we made for communication out. The committee members came together yesterday and worked with Courtney Reyes and looked at the additional feedback, and the data still supports what we are recommending for math. Thank you.
Dr. Galligan, in the original adoption process, how long are resources available for review by the public?
Per statute, 60 days.
Okay. And prior to it being available for review to the public, the committee members review the different resources?
That is correct. Once the adoption starts, we identify what the adoption is. It's posted on our website for vendors to send in their products, and the committee then pulls all of those products together using a rubric that is made up for all of our adoption. It has many different categories to it, including alignment to the state standards. And then the committee narrows down usually from anywhere from 3 to 6 items that will then go into public review.
And who sets the state standards?
The state standards is set by the State Board of Education and ADE.
Okay. Board members, any questions? Mrs. Reed?
Can you explain what is customizable about this curriculum that the parent brought up about lessons being customizable?
President O'Brien, Ms. Reed, I'll do my best. Generally, when a product is customizable, especially in math, that simply means that we can change the numbers in problems so we can have multiple questions with different numbers in the problem itself. That's one way of customizing. Sometimes it's also looking at those unit assessments that are built in, and depending on how far the teacher and the students got towards the standards and the learning progressions, they can adjust the assessment questions, either taking some out or adding some in.
And then I just had one more question. In one of the emails that we had received, I believe, a week and a half ago, there was a teacher who had emailed in and said that he or she, I can't even remember, didn't feel like the district needed to buy hard copies because everything could be accessed and printed. Is that part of the contract that we have to buy actual textbooks, or is there a minimum requirement? Can you explain that a little bit more?
President O'Brien, Ms. Reed, we always want to have some hard copy texts for students who either have a lack of technology, for our special education students who just have some difficulties sometimes on a screen. There are many, many reasons why we would have just a handful of hard copies. We don't purchase anywhere near the number of hard copies that we did before because we are a one-to-one district and we can access all of our resources online for the most part.
Okay, so we are not buying class sets of textbooks
I
for this,
believe,
correct?
I believe we buy one class set per course. And let me just look back at Courtney to make sure. One class set per course, just as I said, and then we always do buy a hard copy of the teacher edition, which can also be found online as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mrs. Fisher?
First, I do want to thank you for reopening it and giving our community the opportunity to comment. It is very important that we are transparent with our community in all that we do. There are so many angry parents out there, and there's also very happy parents. But a listened person, when you listen to a person, first it shows a sign of respect, and second, it shows that you value them and their child. I don't know what changed over the last couple of years that we aren't communicating as much as I had mentioned in the prior meeting that the memory of all the efforts that were made, and I do hope we return back to being a little more inclusive of all of our parents. I hadn't even thought about the ability to. I thought about the manufacturer's ability to change electronic curriculum, but I never thought about our teachers' ability to. Do we have a standard that we're setting as far as like for any kind of word problems or things of that nature? Because that's one of the things that I've just seen parents who, and I don't even think it was in this state, that a word problem was written in a way that it still met the geometry, but it was either questionable or it was problematic. Do we have a standard that we set for our teachers?
President O'Brien, Ms. Fisher, that is some of the work that our curriculum specialists do with teacher teams and at high school with our department chairs, whether it is the type of problem and how we ensure that it is similar to the original problem. That would be one of the things that we just do in our professional development. And then I would also say that in math, most often changes in particular problems, especially if it's part of a unit assessment or other assessments, do run through our curriculum specialists and Mrs. White.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, then I will call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. I will be turning over the meeting to Vice President Ordway for consent agenda, as I will be abstaining.
I would ask that the governing board approve agenda items 6A through 6N.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I would like to explain my vote.
Okay.
My concern, I've expressed it in the past, I'm expressing it again, that we have our consent agenda in comparison to other school district consent agendas is very heavily loaded with contractual obligations, procurement, and things that I believe our public should have a full purview to see. And I'm concerned that our consent agenda is very loaded. And it's, again, a sign of a lack of transparency. And so I cannot vote for this because I just think our community deserves to see some of these contracts and some of the items more in depth.
Did you vote? Did everyone vote? All righty then.
Okay, with that, we will move on to the action items. We have a motion for 7A.
Hold on one second. All right, I would ask that the board approve the results-based funding retention payment.
No, 7A is
I'm sorry. The CTE. Okay, hold on one second. Where'd that? Go ahead and say it, Ann, because you're going to read it anyway. Yeah.
I move that the governing board approve the proclamation declaring that February Career and Technical Education Month in Deer Valley Unified School District.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. We have a proclamation. Whereas February 1st through 28th, 2022 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education in Deer Valley Unified School District. And whereas Career and Technical Education offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness. Whereas students in career and technical education programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase their engagement and achievement. And whereas career and technical education provides students with career exploration opportunities earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework and pursue established programs of study and career pathways. And whereas leaders from business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to addressing the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields, including healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, and information technology. And whereas career and technical education prepares students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to the attainment of industry-recognized credentials. And whereas career and technical education programs ensure that employers have access to a qualified and thriving workforce, ensuring America is a strong and competitive economy. Now, therefore, I, Ann O'Brien, Governing Board President of the Deer Valley Unified School District, do hereby proclaim February 1st through the 28th as 2022 as Career and Technical Education Month. All those in favor, please vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
All right, so I would move on and ask that the governing board approve professional development travel.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Mrs. Fisher?
I just want to state that I am concerned that we have, I do think that travel is important for our staff. It's important for them to learn new things. But it's concerning that we have so many people go to the same thing. Months ago, I expressed concern that we had almost the entire leadership team going to a superintendent conference. Now we have a lot of individuals going to another conference. Um, and in times when we're concerned about money, I just think it may be beneficial if we learn to either bring them here or share information between each other. We have a lot of trainings within the district ourselves. So I'm just curious how much of that information could be shared. I mean, is there truly a benefit to to all of these conferences when we have that many people going? Or is it something that we could do internally?
Can I make a comment?
Well, hold on one second. Are you asking a question of Dr. Galligan or
Well,
who I don't know.
I'm guessing it was
who-
Dr. Gallup. It could be anybody. I mean, I don't.
Oh, is it you, Dr. Galligan, that should?
President O'Brien, Ms. Fisher, some of them are the ones that I have facilitated, at least the board information. We have brought folks to us. We've brought the solution tree speakers to us for the grading and reporting. We brought them for our PLCs. There are opportunities, though, that cannot be brought here. One of them is the experience of going to a comprehensive high school that is successfully implementing professional learning communities, multi-tier systems of support, and evidence-based grading. That is a true observation of a system in place that we would like to emulate to the best of our ability. In other ways, when we are able to bring a conference speaker or speakers, we do, and we spend that money to bring them here. And then if it's during the year, prior to COVID, we would have substitutes that we would pay for, or we bring them in those timeframes, like this summer, that our teachers are not engaged in teaching, and then we typically will offer some form of compensation. So there is a cost either way, but I completely understand what you say, and every time that we can bring a speaker to us for just even speaking and then sessions for teachers, we do our very best to bring them here.
Thank you.
And the particular conference, I think that I'm looking at here, it appears we have people from going from each of the high schools and several of our other schools to learn what you're discussing and bring that back to their school. Is that correct?
President O'Brien, for that one, that is correct. There are others. We are moving forward with multi-tier systems of support for behavior. We feel fairly comfortable and confident with our MTSS academics, and now we are really wanting to bring our campus administrators and some of our department leaders to a similar mindset for behavior that integrates academics and behavior in a Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. And that is one of the other conferences that's listed here.
And can you explain the importance of marrying both of those to our students and our educational achievement?
Absolutely. As you know, the academics, Tier 1 is first best instruction, Tier 2 is for students who just need a small amount of intervention to be on grade level, and then Tier 3 is for our children who have some significant gaps and just need more time. When you look at that in the behavior realm and the way we're looking at this for MTSSB, is Tier 1 happens in the classroom and what the teacher does in the classroom and ensuring that our teachers have a skill set that they feel comfortable with. But it's bigger than that, because in the multi-tier system of supports for behavior, we're looking at a broader expectation and understanding of how we can help children find social behaviors that give them an opportunity to be successful behaviorally and in learning their academics. So it is a marriage between the two, and it's something that we have worked toward, but we've not really been able to get there yet. And Dr. Zerbach and his team have been working closely with a group of administrators as we work through this before we take it across all of our schools. So it's just another way of thinking about those systems of support so we can help children be successful academically, behaviorally, and then through their schooling here in Deer Valley.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Mrs. Ordway?
I don't know if it's probably both Dr. Galligan and Dr. Zerbeck. In general, when we send or somebody asks to go, and it has to be out of state, when they come back, do they share that? I mean, I know it will go into their everyday routine, making things better for kids, but would PLCs be a place where they would share new best practices that they learn from these?
President O'Brien, Ms. Ordway, that is absolutely true. For example, in the team that is going to be visiting the comprehensive high school, they will bring that back to their own individual campus teams. But when we are in pre-K 12, those PLC teams that are made up of campus administrators, so our campus administrators belong to their own professional learning communities, they will be able to share out that information. And even broader than that, we'll be able to share information across our departments to be able to support our campuses be successful.
Mrs. Reed?
Dr. Galligan, is it possible for our staff members who attend conferences, whether it's in-state or out-of-state, to share their nuggets of information that they've learned to where maybe if somebody wanted to come to the board meeting and present, or maybe you could present quarterly on some of these conferences so our community can better understand the information that was learned, why it was important for them to go. I think that would help complete the circle of funding and information and travel and expenses.
President O'Brien, Ms. Reed, that is a great suggestion, and we'll work with Dr. Finch and the board president to see where that might fit in for our board meetings and get back to you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, it passes
Are we done?
unanimously.
It just won't let me back. Sorry.
Are you voting aye or nay?
No, I'm voting for it.
Aye. Okay, sorry. I didn't hear you,
questions,
so I
yeah.
just was trying to make sure I reported accurately. The motion passes
Right, moving on.
unanimously.
On to 7C. I would ask that the governing board approve a resolution to support a reclassification of tax assessment ratio for expansion per a foreign trade zone provision for Sunlit, Arizona LLC, located on property in the Deer Valley Unified School District boundary.
Do I have a second?
Sorry, I second.
Mr. Miglerino?
President O'Brien, members of the board, Dr. Finch, pleased to be able to share a little bit more information regarding this resolution before you this evening. I wanted to recognize first Ms. McKay is in the audience today. She is the Director of Community and Economic Development. I believe that's still your title, right? And you have heard from her previously, as we have talked about the TSMC project on a multiple occasions. As a reminder, this board did approve a foreign trade zone for the TSMC project that is currently under construction in what's sometimes referred to as the Tech Park up near the 303 and I-17. This is a very similar request from what will be a supplier of chemicals for the production of the chips that TSMC will be producing. Just as a little side note, when the original TSMC foreign trade zone was considered, there was some discussion about language to whether or not we wanted to include affiliates and subsidiaries in that resolution. And we modified that to be able to be specific to TSMC at our request, and said that we would want to bring each of those requests back before this board before making some sort of blanket approval. So that's why you're seeing this come back before the board. Just to give you a little background, this is a $100 million investment on some undeveloped land near the north end of the Deer Valley Airport. It is for industrial chemical production, so it's fitting in the area. It's about 17-acre site. And as just a reminder, the foreign trade zone is not a designation that we can bestow. It's something that is earned by the manufacturer, in this case, a Taiwanese-owned company that actually will produce various chemicals that are used in the production of the semiconductors at the TSMC plant. And so the U.S. Department of Commerce is the one that creates that designation and is also responsible for making sure that they meet the criteria to continue that. It's basically a foreign company that comes to the United States, produces something, and then exports that around the world. So that's kind of my definition of a foreign trade zone, and I'm not an expert in the matter, for the record. It is a significant reduction in the actual assessment ratio for this development. But as we talked at length when we considered the TSMC project initially, the benefit outweighs the reduction in the assessment ratio. It's an over 70% reduction in the assessment ratio for the taxes that we would receive. But we've done, with the help of the city of Phoenix, we've done some economic modeling of that, and the benefits far outweigh the tax revenue, because without these foreign trade zones, these companies just, quite frankly, would not come to Phoenix to be able to make these considerable investments. Again, these are for large investments that are going to be made for manufacturing plants that are related to the TSMC semiconductor development. In a brief conversation I had with Ms. McKay this evening, I understand there's maybe 20 more subsidiaries that are currently in the works, and I think that none of them at this time are considering an FTZ. So there are developments that are happening that there won't be a request for, but in this case, because the substantial investment that Sunlit Arizona LLC is putting in this manufacturing plant, they are requesting for this consideration. It does require all the taxing authorities to agree. So this is one of many considerations that have to be taken into consideration before it can be approved. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Or I can ask Ms. McKay to answer your questions, because she's much more of the authority on the matter.
Thank you. Board members? Mrs. Fisher?
We have done similar for large corporations, for the Taiwanese plant, for Honeywell, and those are understandable because there is a clear return on our investment, if you will. We know that Honeywell or the chip plant are going to bring in housing developments, are going to bring in, a lot of growth to our area. This company, however, is coming not because they're bringing growth to our area, because they're following the large chip plant, and there will be many others. My concern is, well, I have multiple concerns. One is, it's concerning to me that we're going to grant a significant tax break to a foreign company without any possibility for an American company to fill that gap, to fill that. There used to be an America first, and now it's America last, and I'm very concerned with that. That's number one. Number two, as their tax that they would provide is, they are not going to provide it, and that falls to our community and our other businesses within our community. So again, are we going to give tax breaks to the other businesses? At what point do our senior citizens no longer afford their tax on their home, but they can possibly rent one from one of these companies? I see no return on investment when we look at this resolution. This resolution says, essentially, because the superintendent recommends it, we should not only give them this big tax break, but we should do it for any future property that this company has. So if this company, well, that's pretty much what that says if you want to read it. It says, any current and future real property. I can't because it says the vote's up. But it's concerning that if this company decides they're going to have a housing for their employees and it's 100% in their name, are we giving that same tax debt because we said any real and personal property? I'm just concerned about the way it's written. I'm concerned that we've seen no true data or figures. And I'm concerned that our decisions are more personal in nature rather than wise business decisions for the district and for the students of our district.
President O'Brien, if I could just respond quickly, the resolution is clear. It actually states the address of the manufacturing plant as well as it recites the parcel number. So it is very specific to the manufacturing plant and specific only to that manufacturing plant. So I'm not sure that you're reading the entire sentence.
It's to that location. It is to that location, but plans do change. So at some point, if their plans change or if and they decide to do a housing on the backside versus a plant. So, do you see what I'm saying? So I'm concerned that it is blanket. I do see that it's blanket. It is blanket to the 777 West Alameda Road, and it has the parcel number. That is true. But I am concerned that it is not specific to a plant. We haven't seen any numbers. How many employees are we expecting? Are we expecting, what is the growth within the community? When Honeywell gave us a similar request, we had a lot of data to go with it. We didn't just have because someone says. And I know that the city council is very gung-ho about it. I did read an article with the mayor talking about what a wonderful thing this is, but they don't really say how or why. They just say it's coming. There's also concerns that I've received from community members about what is the result of a chemical plant in their neighborhood or in their area. You know, a lot of jokes about Aaron Brockovich came into play. I'm not saying that that's another concern, but I am concerned that we're giving tax breaks that don't benefit Deer Valley. They might benefit the city of Phoenix. They might benefit the owners of those companies, but I don't see that there's an adequate rate of return for the district. Perhaps if the data was provided, it would be different, but I haven't seen any.
Mrs. Ordway? Mr. Miglarino, what would be an estimate of a benefit for taxes for our school district with this company being put in with the provision?
President O'Brien, Ms. Ordway, so presently it's undeveloped land. And so there's really very little tax that's generated from undeveloped land. So even though it's a more than 70% reduction in the assessment ratio, if it was not in a foreign trade, You still get the benefit of the $100 million improvement taxed at 5% versus essentially zero for undeveloped land. So there is a significant benefit for the development, for a development of this magnitude, especially because the land is currently undeveloped now.
And the land, not that we take care of this and maybe the expert back there could, but the land's already zoned for what it's zoned for. It's permitted for what it's permitted for. And this is not, this is the 8th step, right?
President O'Brien, Ms. Ordway, yes, it's, we don't have any jurisdiction over allowing different types of commercial property in different locations. What we do have authority over is granting the foreign trade zone status, which would be the alternate assessment ratio for them. It is in, as I mentioned, I consider it to be the north end of the Deer Valley Airport. It's in a very industrial area already.
And so the benefit would be what revenues we would get from it other than having a blank piece of land with nobody trying to develop it, correct?
Yes, and I don't want to speak to the manufacturing aspect of it, but I believe it's necessary also for TSMC to be able to have a partner to be able to provide the chemicals to complete the production of the chip manufacturing. So if it wouldn't be for Sunlit, Arizona, it would have to be somebody else that can provide that for them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. O'Brien.
Mrs. Reed?
Chris, would you be able to answer some questions? Thank you. And while she's walking up, just to address some of Mrs. Fisher's concerns as far as zoning goes, and by no means am I a zoning expert, and this wasn't a case that I reviewed because it's not in the village planning committee that I sit on, but knowing that area, it is not zoned for residential, and residential cannot go there. So it is zoned specifically for industrial type buildings. Is that correct? The Deer Valley Air Park area?
President O'Brien, yeah, absolutely. The zoning does mandate what is allowed to happen on those properties. So residential isn't something that would be allowed by the city of Phoenix to happen on a property that's zoned for industrial uses. And it was zoned and planned as a 160-acre manufacturing and technology campus.
Thank you. And is there an American company that you know of that can do this or that has expressed interest to you and your department for fulfilling this need that they have?
President O'Brien, and I so apologize. I don't have my glasses on and I'm struggling to see.
Mrs. Reed.
Mrs. Reed, thank you so much. Mrs. Reed, I appreciate that. So a couple of different things, if I might. If I could provide just a little bit of clarification on some of the things that have been said this evening, just to kind of bring us forward, so then I'll be happy to answer your question. So the City of Phoenix is the grantor of Foreign Trade Zone 75. Foreign Trade Zone 75 covers Phoenix and Chandler and Gilbert and Tempe and a number of our West Valley cities as well. There are a number of U.S. companies that have a foreign trade zone. Intel's one of them. Honeywell is another one of those. So they're not just for foreign-based companies that are coming here to do business. These are they're based in the United States now. That's how they're here participating in a foreign trade zone. And they bring a raw material into the zone. They add value to that raw material and they ship it outside of the zone. When it's sold, a duty is applied to it at that time. That's governed by the Federal Trade Zone Commission under the U.S. Department of Commerce. So that is a federal program that's been in place since the 1940s. And that's the program that we use here today. In Arizona, there is an additional benefit that was added on in the early 1990s to re-attract manufacturing back to Arizona. We had become a market of low-end call center jobs and retirement and resorts and golf courses. And it was very important to our delegation that we were able to become competitive again in manufacturing. So as you look at, and I say that just to kind of level the playing field, and if I might answer one other question about what the benefits are that these companies do bring in. So as we visited about with Honeywell and as we visited about with TSMC, as an economic developer, you always appreciate a business assistance program that is mutually beneficial. It's not solely beneficial to the company or solely beneficial to the community, but both find great benefit in that. When you look at what is now known as the Mac Innovation Center on Alameda, where this property will be located, it was an Arizona State Land Department property until just very recently. So since dirt's been made, it's not paid property tax on it. But when you look at these technology manufacturers, their capital investment is so significant that they make in the property that even with the property tax reclassification, they still pay at or more than a traditional industrial company would that was building on the property. As an example, while Sunlit, should the Foreign Trade Zone Board in Washington, D.C. approve their zone and all of the steps that take place, their property tax will still be almost identical to a traditional industrial company that would come up on that property paying a full 18% full ad valorem property tax. And the reason being, their capital investment in that property is so much more than it would be on a traditional industrial company. And so you really like, as we visited with before, you really like those benefits that provide where the school district's getting is not losing anything by supporting these great technology companies. And now, President O'Brien, Mrs. Reed, I'll be happy to answer your question. So semiconductor companies have left the United States for the most part. In the 1980s and early 90s, about 34% of all chips were manufactured in the United States. Fast forward to today, and 79% of them are manufactured in Taiwan and only 12% in the United States. It is mission critical for our country. It's a Department of Defense and Homeland Security issue that in an international escalation, that we would be able to gain access again to the technology we need to go into not just things like your refrigerator and your cars, but into our defense equipment. And it is a national security issue now that we get the TSMC facility built and up and operational, and we work closely with Homeland Security and national security organizations on that. TSMC is the only company in the world that has figured out how to manufacture scale at 5 nanometer. And to do that, their chemicals that they use and their technologies they use, the supplies they use are ultra pure. Because the United States had lost on that business for so long, those companies that could produce at that level went to Asia, and they grew in Asia. Our goal now, just like with TSMC and the chips, is to draw them back. So to very directly answer your question, there was not an Arizona-based company that could produce the chemicals they needed at the purity level they needed. And in fact, several of our other semiconductor manufacturers have now signed contracts with this company because of the purity of their chemicals. But I also think it's important to note that the jobs that they're hiring are not coming from Taiwan. They're hiring jobs here in Deer Valley. There are 60 jobs that will be hired as part of this first phase, and part of that $100 million investment. There'll be 60 engineering knowledge economy jobs that go along with them.
Thank you so much for providing that extra context.
And President O'Brien, if I might, one other additional piece of information. We talked about the data we had last time, and happy to spout it off. We had it slides, and I know it in my head. Please know that this company, over a 10-year period, to Phoenix will bring $161 million economic impact to the community. So this is a exceedingly beneficial company coming into the community and providing not only direct tax revenue, but those additional jobs, those manufacturing jobs that create not just the one job that the company's creating, the 60, but in the manufacturing process, they'll create on this scale anywhere from 2 to 3 additional jobs in the community that will support and benefit our citizens.
Thank you, Mrs. Mackey. Any further, Mrs. Paperman?
Thank you for the information. It sounds like a lot of information in a short period of time. I think it will be great. I know as a school board, And if I have more in-depth information before making a decision with proposed property tax reclassification.
Thank you, Mrs. Paperman. Any other discussion or questions? Mrs. Fisher.
Just a couple of follow-up questions. So it wasn't stated, but the implication is there in the statement. Are we saying that if we do not approve this, Sunlet is going to take their $8.2 million property, turn it over, and leave?
President O'Brien, Mrs. Fisher, I didn't say that at all.
No,
What
you
they-
did not. I'm just saying.
They do not have the ability to operate on this campus without the duty program that exists at the U.S. federal government. It is a mission critical to all of these companies to be able to bring a raw material in, add value to it, and ship it back out again. And then they pay the duty based on that as they send out, just like U.S.-based companies do, as we do when U.S.-based companies are selling in other areas. So no, I would never say that this is something they wouldn't do. This is a program that exists. This is something that's offered from it's a program from the federal government that is lauded by Arizona, and it's something that they are asking for support for their campus.
The second one is, would that land be available for other, even if it's not zoned for residential, would it be zoned for other corporate offices or corporate businesses?
President O'Brien, Mrs. Fisher, the land, the 17 acres, so what the total that was zoned in the Mac Innovation Park was about 160 acres. Sunlit has purchased 17 of those acres, meaning that there is 147 acres left to be sold in that park. And our plan is that we will bring significant other employers. We're working with quite a number of other employers that would come into that park, into the new Opus Park, and into, there have been quite a number of them that have already signed leases in existing buildings in the area. So industrial and office tenants are exactly who we recruit into this particular area.
So it's not necessarily just a plant. We're bringing in sites that will allow regional commercial, office, hospitality, multifamily development within the total 3,500 acre for TSMC. But the other concern I have is we're not talking about TSMC, and I think it's clouding when we try and say Sunlit. I mean, it may be his brother-in-law, but it's not TSMC. And so I just want to be clear in what we are voting on to our constituents. And for the record, I do want to note there are 24 American chemical companies because they have served multiple industries such as Magma Copper during the copper time and other. So there are 24 American chemical companies.
President O'Brien, if I might provide just a point of clarification on what Mrs. Fisher. This company is not locating on the 3,500 acres where TSMC is located in what's known as the Sonoran Oasis Science and Tech Park. That's at I-17 and the 303. The Mac Innovation Park is on Alameda between 19th Avenue and 7th Avenue, just north of the Deer Valley Airport. So just wanted to provide that point of clarification.
Thank you. Mrs. Reed?
Ms. Mackey, could you also tell us who else has approved foreign trade zones?
President O'Brien, Mrs. Reed, I'll need to go back and look at those. Do you mean for Sunlit, for this specific one? The City of Phoenix hears it on, we try to come at the end so that when we are going before City Council, we're asking their authorization either for the items or for after they've already been approved. Sometimes it's contingent on the other items being approved. I would need to get that information back to you. As of last week, there were 3 outstanding, and one of which was the Deer Valley. It was Deer Valley, it was Westmec, and it was one other taxing jurisdiction. I just need to remember which one it was.
And then I know this might be getting into the weeds for you, but once So once this goes through all of the different taxation zones and goes up for approval, do all of the zones have to approve it in order for the federal government to approve it, or do they just take into consideration what each vote is?
President O'Brien, Mrs. Reed, the law that reads that the federal government is that there must be an approval from all taxing jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing no other questions or discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? 3-2. Motion passes.
All right. So we will.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mackey.
We will move to 7D, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Approve results-based funding retention payment. I would ask that the governing board approve a resolution. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, where am I now? I'm sorry. All right, approve the results-based funding retention payment plan.
Do I have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second, and Jim? I should have known by the tapping. Sorry, I had to look at my paper. Mr. Miglerino, I apologize.
No worries. I was just waiting my turn. I was wondering if Ms. Mackey did such a great job. Maybe she wants to do the results-based funding thing as well.
She's shaking her head back there. No, thank you.
I think that's pushing your luck.
I do want to just recognize her for being here. I probably jinxed her earlier. I said, "Oh, I don't know that you need to be here," and then I'm so grateful that she was. So thank you. The results-based funding plan, we've provided the plan that the board approved several years ago now. This is the third and final year of the results-based funding plan. What we're considering tonight is the actual retention payment that is paid to campus-based employees. This will be the third year that we make the payment, this retention payment, at one time referred to as a loyalty payment. We've tried to change that terminology just because some people found it offensive. The amount for this year is set at 0.6% of the prior year base salary, which is commensurate with what it's been in the preceding 2 years. This is the third and final year of the plan. So we have a team currently working on an updated results-based funding plan for the foreseeable future. I think it'll be another 3-year plan. This may be the final year for the retention payment, just because it has been a divisive payment that we make, just in full disclosure. But it is consistent with the plan the board did approve, which again we've provided a copy for you in board docs, along with a list of qualifying positions. If you remember, we've had many iterations of the qualifying list of positions. This is the same list that we executed last year, and I'd be remiss not to recognize Dr. Scott Smith, who has to do all of the computations to be able to calculate and figure out who qualifies, who doesn't qualify, what their payment is, people that change positions from one year to the other, people that change their name, get married, try and track everybody to make sure that we process this in the most accurate manner. So what's up for consideration this evening is this payment, because the amount has changed over time. I think it's been within 1 or 2/10% in the 3 years that we have had you consider approving this. And I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you might have.
Questions, board members? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay.
Ready? No. Am I ready?
No. Passes unanimously.
All right. right, I would ask that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the contract language for certified, administrative, exempt, and deputy superintendent for the 2022-2023 school year.
I second.
A motion and a second, and I don't have to look. I know who's gonna do this one, Mrs. Moffett.
Good evening, President O'Brien, governing board members, Dr. Finch. There are no specific changes to the contract other than updates to the dates to move into the next contract year. These were reviewed by Udall Shumway, specifically Denise Lolbrit, and she made no significant recommendations and did recommend that we use the same language moving into this next year. In the Friday update, if you recall, I did let you know that we did make one change, and that was due to the fact that the board approved a different process for us when it came to sick leave and general leave. So there is one specific contract, that is the attendant contract, that references sick leave. It now says general leave instead, to be in alignment with our general leave processes. That is really the only change.
And with the should the board approve these this evening, they would go out to employees when?
Right now, they're planned to go out on, I believe, February 25th. But prior to doing that, we will be bringing our renewal lists forward to you for our exempt employees, certified employees, other professionals, and so on, anyone that's under contract. Once the board approves that list, then we can issue those contracts. So that list is planned for your approval on the 22nd of February.
Okay, and then just as a reminder, after, how long do we have, how long do they have to review their contracts?
15 business days for certified employees and 30 calendar days for administrative employees.
Okay. Are there any other questions or discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I believe the motion passes unanimously. No? You voted? I stand corrected. It is passes 4-0-1 with one abstention.
Bless you.
Bless you, and thank you, Mrs. Moffett. Bless you again.
Bless you again.
We'll move on to governing board reports. Mrs. Paperman.
I would like to bring to the district, if we can have more discussion of what is social emotional learning. I know I have parents within the community, they're bringing it up, and what I would say is that CRT and social emotional learning, as a classroom teacher, there's no standards in Arizona Department of Education. Even talking to my colleagues, even some teachers themselves are confused what is social emotional learning. So if we can communicate the community and even our educators, because not all educators understand what's the purpose of social emotional learning within the district, and is CRT involved, and can you prove it with the Arizona Department of Education, other standards there? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Paperman. Mrs. Fisher?
I just have a couple of questions. Well, no, before I get to any questions, I've got to say that our wind ensemble rocks. I had the privilege of going and listening to our students play, and they are just amazing. And the little gal playing the oboe is smaller than the oboe, which that should be kind of a little bit off. It's wonderful that our students have those opportunities to go and do this. You know, you see big guys playing little instruments, little tiny girls playing giant instruments, and some things that I looked at and went, hey, I know music and I have no idea what that thing is. But they were so impressive. And I just really appreciate when our teachers and our administrators on the campus take the time to invite us to those events. And I really appreciate when my boss lets me leave work to attend those type of events. And so I just start that part on a happy note. The rest isn't unhappy, it's just questions. Let me pull them up. Well, how many emails do I have from Deer Valley Open? One of the questions I did have Ms. Mock, I believe, answered with her report. If I'm incorrect, you can correct me. We are 3.6% behind in our enrollment from 2 years ago, based on what I saw in that last report. Is that correct? Okay. One of the other questions I had, and we do talk a lot, I mean, there's a lot going on in the legislature, and I try and explain a lot to some of our parents because they are upset that they feel that they, well, not all, but some, that they elect a board and then the board, there is no local control because things aren't put before the board. And I had a very difficult time explaining that to them because they're correct. Things that used to be put before boards are no longer put before boards in some districts. Other districts have continued to actually address things with their boards. And I've also seen a lot of our superintendents who have engaged with the community regarding our aggregate expense. And unfortunately, there is a whole group of parents that says, no way, Jose, you are shutting us out. No money to you if you are going to continue to refuse local control. So unfortunately, there are bills that are passing that are concerning in that area. But I also would like to know, one of the items has to do with why local control, our student discipline. When did our student discipline change that it seems to be so much more lenient for certain infractions since the last time the student was actually put before us for consideration, adjustment, and approval was prior to 2017. And so, unless I missed something in the 2 years I was gone, I would like to know when did it get approved to change? Some of the infractions that I've seen, the punishment is a one-day suspension or an on-campus suspension, when previously it would have been a much more impacting. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, because I know that we've had kids come before us who, as a mom, if I could have just given them a hug and said, we are going to help you and we're going to put you in a classroom with special help, I would have. But I would like to know when it appears that some of our regulations or our consequences have changed a lot. The other question, I did email these all, however, did not get a response, and the Friday update is just not a response place. Well, I'll bring the other questions to a future board meeting because I don't want to keep everybody waiting for time. Find the email that I had open. It got shut somehow. But I am concerned, these all led towards that I'm concerned that we are not honoring our community and our parents. And so I really want us to, at some point, have conversations where how do we get back to where we were in 2016. The other question that I did have, and it was one that just came to me this weekend, I would like to know what our protocol is for protection of our paraprofessionals when they have students who are physically and possibly verbally extremely aggressive. I just want to know what our safety protocols are I did have someone communicate to me about a para who was in a situation with a student who had a tendency to be violent. And when she tried to turn to administration was kind of told, I'm busy, and the door was closed. And she was left alone with that student. So I don't think that's our protocol. So I would like to know what our protocols are. And that's it for now.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Mrs. Reed?
Thank you. I had the opportunity to attend the production of Frozen at Sandra Day O'Connor High School. My third grader had an opportunity to go on a field trip prior for their dress rehearsal and loved it so much he wanted to go back. So we went back to go see the show. They did an amazing job. It was their senior show, and the students were very emotional about it being their senior show, and we got to hear about their journey starting as freshmen and all of the amazing things that that they did, even in the midst of COVID and having to have class online. So it was great. So kudos to the theater teacher at O'Connor and all of those senior students, and there were some juniors and sophomores that were in there too that helped, and all of the crew members that were there to dedicate their time. I also wanted to highlight a really great email that the superintendent and the board received from a very grateful grandfather regarding the assistance from Miss Dial and the front office staff at Mountain Ridge. We don't get a lot of emails that talk about how great our teachers and our staff members are. I would love to get a lot more of those. It's a nice breakup between some of the other emails that that the board gets, but I know that we have really great teachers and really great staff members that are out there, but we just don't hear about it straight from the horse's mouth, basically. So thank you, Mr. Quinn, for taking a moment and sending that to us. I have a couple of requests, and Mrs. Taylor, if I need to email them, let me know, and I'm happy to do that as well. The first is just for the board. I know that we're all busy up here, and we're trying to do research, and so we have all the information that we need to vote, but it would be really helpful if all of us did audible votes when the vote is called. So please make sure that your microphones are on and that we're speaking into that, and then we vote electronically as well. For the foreign trade zones, just with Mrs. Paperman's comment, Mr. Miglerino, since you mentioned that there is a possibility that more are going to be coming before us, I think it would be helpful, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mrs. Paperman, but I think it would be helpful for our board and for the community who is paying attention to the meetings to have some of the information that Mrs. Mackey shared posted online prior to our vote, and to make sure that we have all of the information that that we may need in order to make an informed decision. In response to the parents' comment about social emotional learning videos, I don't know about all of the schools, but I do know at my children's school that we get weekly emails regarding social emotional learning and what's being taught, with a link to the videos that are being shown to my students. And then the teachers also give us a summary of activities and things like that that they shared. So I just want to make sure that that information is posted on every school's website, and that our parents know that they can access those resources. I think that it also might be very helpful, so a request for an agenda item to go over again what social emotional learning is in our district, what resources we use, how those are picked, and what the DVUSD standard is for social emotional learning. In addition, I know that our counselors are at a conference all week, and part of that was about different strategies for social emotional learning. So I think it might be helpful to maybe have a few counselors from some different grade levels present to share some of the information and ways that they use that, because I know that they do small groups, lunch bunches, and things like that as well. Parent participation was brought up in public comments about the need for more parent participation. I know that previously when we've had budget surveys and calendar committee surveys and different things where we have polled the community to ask for input, we're really excited and happy when we get 3,500 responses, because that's really high. Obviously, I would love more parent participation when it comes to those things, but I think it's important for the board to understand what parent participation is like at our schools. So I don't know if data is collected on parent participation for parent-teacher conferences. I know that we have to sign up in advance, and in high school we have to sign in when we're there. But if that data is not being collected and saved, so it doesn't need to be names, but I think percentages or numbers would be helpful. So 25 out of 30 students had parents that participated in parent-teacher conferences, and for that information to be shared at the board level, I would appreciate that, because if we need to change the way that we're communicating or the times that are available for parent-teacher conferences to increase participation, I think that that's something that I would be willing to entertain. As far as literature lists, I know that we've had a couple of concerns in the past, and this was a request that I had made, I think, 2 years ago. But I would really like to see an approved book list that our teachers use, the supplemental book list that exists, and to have that posted under at the district website under CIS, underneath, so if it's language arts, then it's underneath that. I think that would be really helpful for parents, because if they don't agree with a book, then they know well in advance that they need to request an additional assignment instead. Okay. Sorry. The final ones. I am making a agenda request for a future meeting for the board to learn more and to discuss facility rentals when it comes to feeder teams, club teams, and athletics in general at our district. So I can send a list of questions to Mrs. Taylor and what that process for approval looks like. I'd also like to make an agenda request that the board better understand the relationship that the districts and the schools have with club teams or organizations who use DVUSD logos, names, and colors of our schools, but are not necessarily affiliated with our schools. So if there are contracts or agreements that exist, for those to be brought forward, and if there aren't contracts or agreements that exist, that the district consult with the attorney to be able to discuss creating a process for that. I'd also like to better understand the equity with feeder teams and programs. So, for instance, I had a parent call me yesterday and said that they're zoned for Barry Goldwater. Their son wants to play football. Barry Goldwater doesn't have a feeder team for their football program, so they were signing up for the Junior Eagles. I want to make sure that whatever sport or whatever school that wants to have a relationship with a feeder team has the opportunity to be able to do so, and to make it equitable across the district and the schools. I think if we're going to have 4 feeder high school football teams, then we really need to put a concerted effort to find a program that would be the feeder team for the other school. So with Barry Goldwater having declining enrollment, I don't know that it's, in my opinion, that it's fair or equitable for those students to be siphoned off at an early age because they want to play football and they get excited about going to another school. I want to make sure that they have the opportunity to play sports for the school they're zoned for if that's what their desire is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Mrs. Ordway?
Well, I'll go off of your last point. I was going to say the shadowing that the feeder schools have been doing to the high schools has been working out great. It gives those students an opportunity. I also did hear that the junior Jags, junior Eagles, junior Bulldogs, at this moment in time, there are no camps for those students. I'm sure it has to do with maybe lack of personnel. But if we could work on that, I think that would help those students that have not had and parents, the opportunity to be on the Goldwater campus, to go to that Goldwater campus and be on there at an early age. It works out because you've got Sonoran Foothills and Norterra and our new up school that are all, going that way. So that's a lot of kids that aren't going to be, playing the junior sports there. So if we can somehow help Goldwater get that established, that would be awesome. The other thing is a lot of tears, going on with all these senior nights. I saw some tears with the soccer teams, moms with their seniors. Basketball is going to happen. So I guess we are marching down to the end of the school year. It doesn't seem like it. I know that we haven't hit spring break, but before you know it, proms are going to be here and get my grades up so I can graduate and promote. So I really appreciate everyone staying strong, and another one of those years where you might have to dig far into it, but we need to finish strong because it's just one of those years. I'm happy that COVID is not going as strong as it had been prior to that. I appreciate in advance the list that you're going to come up with, or the strategies, perhaps not a list, of what we will be doing to our system if the legislators do not pass raising the aggregate spending limit. And on that happy note, Mrs. O'Brien, go ahead.
Thank you for your comments, Mrs. Ordway, as well, and requests. So a couple of shout outs for those who didn't tune in to our awards portion before the official meeting started. I would like to give a big thank you to the Deer Valley Education Foundation and Executive Director Marie Brennan again for honoring our rookies of the year, rookie teachers of the year, I should say, excuse me. We had 6 of them, and that's so exciting and just really a wonderful thing. And so thank you again to you all, as well as the sponsors who do that. And I can't remember them all, so I'm not going to say their now, but they were listed all during the presentation, and we know we couldn't do it without their help either. And additionally, another shout out to CTE and the folks who are here, Mrs. Fitzpatrick, Mrs. Horton, and Mrs. Kidwell, as well as the CTE ambassadors who are sharing their love for the CTE programs that we have all across our district, as well as the West Mac opportunities. I really appreciate them spending a part of their evening with us. I was remiss earlier, Dr. Galligan, sorry, and I know that Courtney has left, but if you could thank Courtney Reyes as well for the additional work on the math adoption resources and for opening that back up, as well as beefing up the system in which we will communicate in the future for future resource adoptions. I do appreciate that. I briefly am going to give a shout out to Grand Canyon University, who had a school safety summit and was happy to run into Mrs. Frank there and see her. I only got to attend a couple of the sessions, a panel, but I will tell you, I have a very long list of questions around cybersecurity, and so we'll be requesting that we have an executive session to discuss some of those cybersecurity issues and how we protect our staff and students' data. It's not something I think we've ever talked about as a board. We also, the other session I attended had to do with public safety trends, and I do know that Deer Valley has always been out on the leading edge of making sure that we were keeping our campuses, staff, students safe, and I know that continues, but it was a very interesting session, and if they continue to do it, I hope we will continue to send staff to make sure that we stay out in front on all of that. And having said that, I will turn to Dr. Finch for the Superintendent Board Report.
Yep, thank you. Just a reminder too, I always add this part of it. The aggregate spending limit numbers come from the 1980s, even before charters were even invented. So that's the reason why they are not included in this discussion. But it is the legislature problem. It's not our problem. The money's already been allocated. But the 1980s numbers is what's holding us back in the perfect storm. So I expect them to follow through. We shall see. March 1st is their date, and to get that done, we get conflicting advice from different lobbyists saying it may come before. They may also wait till March 1. What I'm looking for is making sure there's not a poison pill attached to it. And so, which they have history of doing it. So we want a clean bill, especially for this round. That, and as you know, I'm very busy with the legislators and our different groups that impact that. We met with the Senate, the NEVIC superintendents, 8 of us last week, and did talk to the R's and the D's and got their different takes on many of the bills that are working through the system as we speak. I just saw, number 2, I just saw on the internet this evening that West Wing and Mountain Shadows received the A+ School of Excellence Award. And that adds another title to our belt. That's a big deal. The reason I like that award is it's an outside set of eyes and it's based on a standard. It's not who's the best that year. So it's kind of like the FDA sticker on your orange that says this passed this standard. And so there was 21 in the state of Arizona. And yes, Deer Valley, I believe, has the highest percentage of schools for the bigger districts, the unifieds. We always battle. Chandler, as you know, I always talk about our battle with Chandler. It's between us or them on who's in the best school district in Arizona. And I believe we got them on that number. So. And I really like that that award. That's a special one. It's one that I put emphasis on because, again, it's outside eye, which is good, a good barometer for us. Last but not least, we are 30 days away, 25 days away from the Superintendent's Art Award. All the art that you see in this building is from students. So just a shout out to the kids, sharpen those pencils, get those airbrushes and paintbrushes going. That's a neat award that we get done. And I think it's March 1st is when I have to judge. So it's getting close. And if you want to see those, it is at the Outlet up north in Anthem. They show it off for a couple of days. So make sure you get a chance to check that out. And we'll promote it as it gets closer as well. So thanks. That's it.
Oops, sorry. With that said, our future meetings are posted, and I will call for a motion to adjourn at 9:27.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We're adjourned.